If you search YouTube for indie publishing, you'll find a lot of beautiful vlogs and debut authors talking about, really excitedly about how they just released their first book, or they're writing their first book and they're going to indie release it. And it all looks highly polished and optimistic, and it all looks so much fun. You think you want to try it, but you see very few seasoned indie authors with a 14-year backlist sitting down to pull back the curtain on what it's actually like to build this kind of career and how it functions over the long haul. Why? Because most of us are too busy running our businesses to sit down and record and edit a video. But today, I'm gonna change all that. Who am I? My name is Julie DiRivezzo, and I'm the author of The Lost Slipper Society, Victorian Romance series, and the Gears, Cogs, and Puppy Dogs steampunk romance series, the urban fantasy antique magic series, and even more. I've been publishing since 2012, and over that decade, I've seen several shifts in the industry. I've survived floor dropping out from underneath the market many times. Today, I want to share 4 realistic truths about building a long-term indie author career. The kind of unfiltered reality you won't find in a textbook or a masterclass on indie publishing. Truth number 1, the myth of the savior community. First, enter the indie author world. You fall into the trap of thinking publishing is this great, big, massive, cooperative group of authors who are there to lift each other up. The reality you learn after a decade is that it can be a bit lonelier than that. It's not that people are disingenuous, it's that we're all working towards the same goal in our own individual careers, and we all have our own paths and our own work to do, so that though you can make friends and they can help you out, they're not always available when you need them. They may be having their own crises, they may be in the middle of writing their own books and with their own lives going on, and they just don't have time to answer your emails. Or maybe they've already sent out a newsletter when you ask for a newsletter swap, and they don't have room to put you in at the exact time that you have a new release. It's just what happens. It doesn't mean that they're not supportive and they're not your friends. It's just, this is life, and we all have our own careers that we're working on, and things that we're wrapped up in our own heads, and just don't have time for anybody outside. The truth is, people can just be non-responsive because they're overwhelmed, to put it succinctly, not out of any maliciousness. To survive 14 years in the indie space, you have to realize that you are the sole CEO of your business. Treat your friends like gold. In fact, you really should, but you have to realize that you have to build your own authentic individual basis for your business yourself. And nobody's going to do that work for you, not even your friends. And you also shouldn't rely on any networking to keep your business afloat. It's your job. Truth number 2. This is just my experience, so let me save you some money. There is no magic bullet or blueprint for success in this business. The best you can do is the best you can do. Or to put it more succinctly, what may have worked for them in the past might not work for you. I can say this because I've followed people and taken their advice when they say, oh, if you do X, Y, Z, ABC, you'll make $1 million. Your book will hit the top of the bestsellers and millions of people will buy it. And I've done those exact right steps that they've told me, and I've got nothing but crickets. I've paid for the ads, I've taken the courses, I've changed my covers more times than I can count for, in my opinion, no good reason. And while I may have seen a little bump in sales, I'm talking little, tiny, and it never lasts. Even if you have a series that you have read through on, just because they buy book 1 doesn't mean it won't be 6 years before they finally read book 1 to actually want to maybe go read the rest of the series. It's just the reality of it. There are excellent coaches and courses out there that can teach you about productivity and time management and organization. But sustaining an indie career isn't about copying somebody else's system. You have to find what works for you. Something that you can sustain, that will keep you writing and keep you happy while you're writing, so that you don't burn out. If you're just working and working and working and working and then you burn yourself out, you're not going to have a sustained, nearly multi-decade career like I have. You've got to take time for yourself. You can't push yourself trying to follow what all these other people are doing to get to the same milestones that they are, because your life is different than theirs. You might not be able to write 25 novels a year without, coming out of it with physical problems, burnout, exhaustion. It's nice if you could do it, but don't force yourself to do it, thinking that you're going to become a millionaire if only you do this, because the truth is, a lot of it's luck. Truth number 3, the market is going to shift on you, and it might shift on you while you're working on your book. Here's the bitter truth. You can do everything perfectly. You can have the perfect cover, the perfect editor. You can do the perfect word count and hit all your genre tropes. You can write a flawless book and have an incredible cover and optimize all your keywords. And by the time you hit publish, everything shifts in the publishing landscape. I've seen it happen to me, to other people, more times than I can count. Amazon will change its layout or the way that it calculates its Kindle Unlimited payouts. We've seen that happen over and over again in the last 12 years. There have been many times that the payouts have dropped to outrageously low levels, where you're making a fraction of 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 a penny for every page read, so that you have a 300-page book and you're getting about 10 cents per read. It's a nightmare. Longevity in self-publishing isn't about being perfect or being able to predict the future. It's about being able to stay on your feet when the floor shifts out from under you. When platforms change, you pivot. You do something else to get your books out there. If Meta stops working, you go advertise somewhere else. If a friend of yours drops out and you don't have a swap anymore, you go talk to more people. You just keep trying and you just keep putting your books out there. That's the number one thing you have to do. If you don't have a book, you don't have a platform, and you're not going to make it this long in the indie publishing space. Truth number 4, the backlist trap. What nobody tells you about having a 14-year-long backlist. When you're writing your first 3 books, you keep going, you keep putting the books out. But when you get this far in your career, you realize something. You have a backlist large enough that you've now become an archivist. Managing a large backlist is a full-time job. Suddenly you aren't just drafting book 30, you're updating links in book 1, updating back matter, rerunning ads on older series, handling cover updates so your older catalog doesn't look dated. New authors focus entirely on the front list sprint, but veteran indies survive on the backlist marathon. You have to learn how to split your brain between creating the new and maintaining the old, or the business collapses under its own weight. And finally, truth number 5. You cannot survive 14 years in this industry if you treat it like a sprint. The indie world is obsessed with this treadmill of rapid releasing, or even worse, leaning on AI to write their books. Boo hiss. Let me tell you what happens to most of those authors. they burn out. They fall to the wayside. They can't do it anymore. So all they have left to rely on is their backlist. And even pushing that becomes harder and harder until finally they just disappear altogether. Me, I've been here the whole time, quietly writing away, editing, writing again, rewriting, revising, and putting out about a book every 9 months to a year. Or in the case of my latest one, a year and a half. Why? Because life gets in the way. There are illnesses. There are storm seasons, depending on where you live. There are family matters that have to be taken care of. There's catastrophes that you don't foresee. Friends die, editors die, age happens, menopause, something I'm dealing with. If you love your writing, you keep doing it. You love the writing, you can't stop doing it. So you write your books and you go through the stages and you finally put them out, no matter how long it takes, because you love writing. You're in this industry because you believe in what you've done all these years, and you have to do that. If you don't love it and you don't believe in what you're doing, you're not going to last 14 years. You're going to get tired, you're going to burn out, you're going to just throw up your hands and say, to heck with it, and go get a job as a secretary or something. Secret to longevity in this industry is that you protect your creativity. You have to learn when to push, when to rest, and when to define, how to define what that success is for you on your own terms. If you're like me, writing historical romance, that takes deep mental stamina. Building the world, managing the languages, trying to keep up with the history, making sure that everybody is alive in the time period that you're putting them in. All of this takes mental energy to do. And then to sit down and write a coherent story on top of it, all of that takes mental and physical stamina. If you don't build boundaries around your writing time and your mental health, the indie life will knock you down. I didn't survive 14 years of writing and pushing and getting myself out there and trying to gain new readers by destroying myself to do it. I survived by creating a pace that I could sustain over and over again. All that to say, don't push yourself. Take breaks when you need to. It's okay. The industry will be here when you get back. Indie publishing is a marathon, not a sprint. If you want a realistic, no-nonsense look at what it's like, give me a subscribe, a like, and come along on the journey. Now let's start a conversation in the comments. What's a real roadblock you're facing in your indie publishing right now? Is it dealing with platform shifts, or finding your audience, or even just keeping your sanity while you're writing? Let me know in the comments below, and I just might make a video about it in the future. That's it for now. Thanks for watching. Bye.